Hey guys, it's Sarah, or Axie, or whatever you want to call me. This is a quick tutorial on how I use Lighty Lights, sort of just a look, not at everything in the mod. Don't at me, Racker, I don't know how all of it works. Okay, let's open up Lighty Lights, and first what I'm going to do is reset the atmosphere and lighting in this scene, because this is not how this area normally looks. So you can do that here with the reset atmosphere and lighting buttons. And this is where we so this is actually Halsin's romance scene area. Normally you're over here. Well, that's not the tree. I think the tree actually comes with Halsin, or with, you know, the scene. So it's not part of this scenery. Anyway, let's go back. It's normally at night. You can see the moon and the stars, and there's some clouds and whatever. Okay, so now let's go ahead and change the lighting. You'll see a list of all the lighting scenes in the game from different areas, and you can add them to favorites. You probably should. There's a lot. So let's change it to the House of Hope lighting. You guys probably remember this. Very orange and red. A lot of bright, harsh light. I'm just going to go through a couple of different lighting scenarios so you can sort of see how things change. And also remember that the lighting is very much affected by the atmosphere. So the atmosphere is everything that's not lighting, but that includes things like the scattering sun, light, and all of that. So just because like a lighting scenario doesn't look great with one atmosphere doesn't mean it can't look very different with a different one. So I'll just go through a couple of the atmosphere scenarios so that you can see how it can change things, although maybe this was not the best lighting preset for this, because this lighting preset is not as extreme as some of the others. But yeah, let's go ahead, and you can also match these, by the way. The lighting and atmosphere, most of them have, like, you know, sort of matching lighting and atmosphere, and usually those will work together. Sometimes they're a little weird. A lot of these are for interior areas, which also need light, so those can look a little bit strange, you know, if you're outdoors. But also sometimes they can look really cool and different, so you should just try everything, because you have thousands of hours to do that, like me. Okay, now we're going to look at some of the atmosphere and lighting, like individual settings. So I'm gonna go ahead and reset to how this normally looks, just because it's easier that way. And we'll start with the moon, since there's a moon. And first, there is the yaw, which is where the moon is located in the sky, just where around you. So it's 360 degrees. And honestly, the easiest way to work with this is just to find a lighting scene that has a moon in it and then start moving the yaw around so you can see where the moon is, because I think it's relative. So yeah, as you can see, I'm changing it. Now it's behind that tree. You can also move it all the way to the other side. Again, 360 degrees. So it'll eventually end up sort of like very close to where it was originally. The other thing that you can change is the pitch, which is how high it is, or how high above you. So you can move it up higher or lower, depending on if you want to be able to see it, or if I use this more with sun, because, you know, you'll get those like sort of sun rays coming from a certain angle. Let's see, what else can you change? Oh, well, you can change a lot of things, but so you can change the distance, which is how far away the moon is from the planet. This is way too close. You can't even see it because it's so close to you. So let's put it at a normal-ish distance. This is like halfway. So you can see here it gets bigger and it looks closer and more ominous. You can move it really close, but then as you can see, the textures are not quite high resolution enough for that to work. Or you can move it really far away. I don't actually know what the radius does, so let's just ignore that for now. And let's go ahead and take a look at some of the, also remember that you can always hit that reset all, and sort of it'll reset things. It won't reset things perfectly, I found that sometimes if you close all of the individual settings, it will reset things well, but then sometimes it won't. So I don't know. Whatever. If everything messes up, you can just kind of reopen that atmosphere and lighting scene. Let's take a look at stars. You can add a bunch of stars to the sky, which is kind of a cool, crazy effect. And it's probably the most useful for when you're taking pictures, because you can also change things like shimmer and saturation and intensity, but those are mostly going to be, well, the shimmer and saturation stuff is mostly going to appear more when you're playing the game or when the game is moving. So it's not as useful for taking pictures, but as you can see, you can put a bunch of stars or not as many stars in the sky. So that's how I get some of those, nighttime pictures with like a ton of stars. Now let's take a look at the sun really quick, because that's the thing that I think a lot of people have been looking at, especially with lighting. Again, yaw is just where the sun is in the sky, and I would just sort of find a lighting scenario where you have the sun and you like it, and then I would just start moving it around the area. And again, it's 360 degrees, so if you move it like to the opposite side, then it'll end up kind of in the same place that it was before. Pitch is also really important for sun, so let's move this. So yeah, this is the reason I chose this area, because you have like that little ridge where the sun can end up going below, and that kind of showcases what pitch does. But yeah, so the pitch is how high it is in the sky. Sometimes you want like, an angle where the sun is shooting rays at you from a very dramatic point. So that's why you can change the pitch. Usually like, high up in the sky is not quite as dramatic. You can also change the color of the sun, but I think that just changes the color of the actual sun, which is not really something that you see, not even if you're taking pictures of the sun. Same with real life. So that's not going to make a big difference in sort of how photos look. But what will make a big difference is the scattering sun color, which you'll find here in Skylight. I don't know how all of these things work, so I'm only going to go through the things that I use right now because I've sort of figured them out. Scattering sun color is the color of the sunlight that is coming toward you. So you can change it to any color that you want, but if you're trying to get that sort of golden hour, sunlight effect, then you probably want to change it to some sort of red or orange. You probably don't want it to be too intense because, it gets really intense really fast. So I would stick closer to the more faded colors. But yeah, you can just play around with it, figure out what you like and don't like. Okay, that's all we're going to do in the atmosphere and lighting for now. So let's go ahead and take a look at the main part of Lighty Lights, which is the lights. Let's see. Actually, maybe. Okay, well, first of all, these different types of directional lights, the degree is the angle amount of lighting that you're going to get. So actually, I should probably change this to a darker scene so that you can actually see the lights. Let's go ahead and actually, you know what? I'll just reset it because I can do that at any time, of course. Okay, so now it's dark and you can see the lights. I'm going to start out with this here, this directional 5-degree light, just so you can see how what I mean when I say the angle or degree, of lighting that you're going to get. So here's a 30-degree light. As you can see, it's wider. And then you can also have, a 90-degree light. That's even wider. So you sort of get the idea. You probably want to use the wider lights for lighting up more stuff. You will get more intensity toward the center of the light, if you're shining a flashlight on something. So that's why you're going to want to use different degrees of lighting. So let's start with this 30-degree, usually good for lighting the upper part of the body. And what you need to know about this are color, temperature, and power. Color is pretty self-explanatory. It is the color of the light that you get. If you just want to do temperature in terms of normal lighting colors, then you can just go down here and use the temperature slider. If you slide it, it'll automatically take you to like normal temperature of light. The power is how much light you get. I think it's measured in lumens actually, but you know, that doesn't really mean anything to anyone right now. The distance is how far the light goes. Unlike real lighting in the real world, this is actually not the same, and it's very useful. So here you can see I've moved to like a different angle, and you can see that there's a shadow. The distance is exactly how far the light goes. So you can change the distance so that it's only, you know, lighting the character. That means they won't cast a shadow beyond, you know, where that lighting stops. So that's actually really useful if you are getting shadows in, you know, scenes that you're trying to set up and you're trying to figure out how to get rid of those. Just change the distance. Okay, so when I set up my lights, I usually start by sticking it to the camera and then moving it around. But then once I kind of have it in a rough area, I will unstick it from my camera, and then I will take a look at the marker here. And I can move it now, you know, using these controls. I just go with world relative because it's simpler. And you can move it, you know, all different ways. You can always re-stick it to your camera if, like, you know, you end up moving it into some place that you can't get it out of, or, you know, can't figure out how to get it out of, and then unstick it and move it again. I also change the angle a lot. That's something that I can't always get when I'm moving my camera around. If I want like a very extreme angle, or if I want, you know, to only light like one part of the character or something. Obviously not like this, but just an example. If I'm changing the angle here, you can see, you know, I'm only lighting one side of Signe, which, by the way, is how you pronounce her name, Signe. Okay, the other thing you're going to want to pay attention to is the markers, because they do automatically disappear if you add more lights, but they don't necessarily automatically disappear. Well, the last one doesn't automatically disappear. But here, I'll just show you, I'll put a light on the star in there so you can see that you can now see this marker. The other marker's gone, but you can also toggle the marker off. You can also, you know, make that a hotkey, which for some reason I didn't do and should probably do. Maybe I'll do that after this video. Anyway, I'm going to delete all of the lights that I just made. An important note is that you have to do all of your changing of the atmosphere and lighting outside of photo mode, because it won't change once you're inside of photo mode. You can, however, add lights and stuff when you're in photo mode. Okay, let's go ahead and enter photo mode. And maybe we'll do a picture of Signe. Why not? I'm gonna go ahead and find some super basic pose. Probably Shadowheart's companion pose, because I use that a lot in a lot of my individual like portraits and stuff. I don't know, it just works really well. Let's get rid of Starion because we don't care about him. And let's move Signe over here to the railing. Okay, now that we have her in place, I'm going to open Lighty Lights, and I'm going to create a directional 30-degree light, because it's just, again, it's good for like sort of lighting the upper area of her body. I'm going to kind of move it a little bit further. Again, I have stuck it to my camera so I can move it easily. And then once I kind of have it roughly where I want it, I will unstick it from my camera. And first thing I'm going to do, because I don't want this to actually be a scene that's lit up, I just want there to be enough light that you can sort of see her and the details of her, but without it looking like there's any light in the picture, which is not as hard as it sounds. So I'm going to adjust the distance so that it's not lighting the railing behind her. And I'm also going to adjust the power a lot. So again, I just want it to look like there's enough ambient light in the scene that you can see the details of her, but not like there's light shining on her. I'm also going to light the face separately, which is something that I usually do with a smaller light, just because that gives me a little bit more control. You can also come in from a different angle which is important because sometimes when you light everything from one angle, you get, weird shadows on the face. So again, I've stuck it to my camera, moved it to where I want it to be. I'm changing the distance so that you don't see the light, on that like pot behind her. I'm also changing the power a lot. And I'm trying to get it more just on her face. So it's not on like her whole head, but it's just her face. And then I unstuck it from my camera, and I'm going to go ahead and look at it sort of from where the angle, or the angle from which I am going to take the photo. As you can see now, her upper body and her face are lit up and like her lower body isn't, but I'm not going to include her lower body in the picture. Otherwise, I would light that as well. Because again, I want it to look like there's enough light in the scene that you can just see what's going on, but I don't want it to look like there's a light shining on her. Let's change where she's looking. Actually, yeah, let's take a really quick sidebar dip into how you can change the angle of characters' heads. So you can only do this with one character at a time unless you want them both to be looking in the same direction. You can go into photo mode and have them look at the camera, and then you can enter the Otis cam. You do need Otis cam for this, and then you can move Otis cam around to go from a different angle. I will note, and I just discovered this the other day when someone was mentioning that they were getting issues with doing this. If you enter Otis cam before you hide the UI, then you will get that kind of weird stuttering head thing. So you have to hide the UI first, enter Otis cam, and then move your camera around. The reason I'm mentioning this is because if you do change the angle of the head, then your lighting, the lighting that I put on Signe's face earlier is kind of now going to be lighting like her ear because she's looking, over in this direction. So now I'm going to go and I'm going to change that light so that I'm going to come in from this angle so that it's just on her face. We're going to see how that looks. So yeah, I'll change that. I will go ahead and probably enter Otis Cam to do this so I can see again, what the lighting is going to look like from the angle and also with her looking in the direction that she's going to be looking for the picture. You can see that marker is still there, but I'll turn that off. I will turn it off right now, actually, so that we can sort of see the whole setup. All right. So yeah, now you can see she's looking, off dramatically into the distance at the moon or whatever. And, okay, well, you can't really see any of her face, so I'm actually going to move her head over a little bit so you can see more of her side profile. And we'll see how that looks. Okay, it looks pretty good, but I think there's still too much light on her shoulder there. Yeah, it looks like there's light on her. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to go look at the lights that I have. I'm going to go back to that 30-degree light, and I'm just going to change the power. So yeah, she's looking at me now, but I don't care. I'm just working on laying her body. Ignore me, Signe. All right, I'm going to change the power so it's even lower so that you don't get that sort of, sheen on her shoulder. All right, so that looks good. Hopefully. Yes. Okay, so yeah, now I'm going to, move my camera all around and try to take a picture. But I will not show you that part. That will be for another video or another time.